From a film that broke box office records to others that barely budged the needle, our film critic Erik Childress, vice president of the Chicago Film Critics Association, saw it all. He joins us now to help us rewind the year of 2011 on the silver screen. So let's start with those blockbuster hits this year.
Yeah, well, we had 3 movies this year worldwide who cracked the $1 billion mark. You had Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, the final chapter there, the 3rd Transformers movies, and the 4th Pirates of the Caribbean movie, all made $1 billion worldwide. And then they were also in the top 5 domestically, which also included the new Twilight, the latest Twilight movie, and the Hangover sequel. So those are your top 5 for the year.
Was that unusual to see so many billion-dollar movies?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's unusual in that we had 3 this year. Normally you get 1 or 2, usually. But this year you had 3 big sequels. You had a concluding chapter. Pirates of the Caribbean movies do box office bonanzas overseas, so it's not a big surprise that those movies did as well as they did.
Now those films are big budgeted films from Hollywood, but there were some smaller budget films that did tremendously well this year.
It was a really terrific year for movies that are sort of modestly budgeted. I mean, you had movies like The Help and Bridesmaids, each made $169 million apiece, very small budgeted films. You had some horror films like Paranormal Activity 3, only budgeted $5 million, did over $100 million, and a small little film that premiered at Toronto last year called Insidious from the guys who did the Saw movies, only budgeted about $1.5 million, did $54 million at the box office.
And we have to mention those box office flops.
Yeah,
what's on your list?
It's disappointing. I mean, the Conan the Barbarian remake from Lionsgate, they had a $90 million investment in that. Only did $21 million domestically. It did even less overseas.
That's a big loss.
Yeah, not very well. It did like $48 million total. Then you had Happy Feet 2, which is not doing very well here domestically. It hasn't done a whole lot overseas. It might recoup a little bit better, but not doing too well. Martin Scorsese's Hugo, the verdict is still kind of out on that because it's doing very well in the awards right now, so it might sort of translate to some dollars. Hasn't opened overseas yet, but we're talking about $175 million budget, so they're telling us, and it's only done about $35 million domestically, so that's not very good. And then you had Mars Needs Moms, which was budgeted over $150 million as part of Robert Zemeckis' animation division. That actually got shut down because of how badly this film did. It did $21 million here in the States, did only about $17 million overseas. It was a huge bomb for them. We got The Adventures of Tintin coming up. It will be interesting. That movie is doing very well overseas, so that's going to recoup all its costs. But it just wasn't a very good year, creatively for animated films. So it was very disappointing.
Oh my Smurf.
And what trends did you notice among moviegoers? Were consumers anxious to get to the theaters, or did they stay away? What was the overall
Well, it
feeling?
seemed like they were looking. I mean, we had a bunch of sequels and remakes and stuff come out this year, so people were flocking to those. But the movies that we mentioned, these movies like Help and Bridesmaids that had all-female casts, women and men respectively went out. Especially Bridesmaids was a very funny movie. Went out to go see that. The 3D thing is kind of on the downswing, I think. So hopefully we won't see too much of that in the future. But R-rated comedies, Bridesmaids, Horrible Bosses, Bad Teacher, all did very well this year.
Erik Childress, vice president of the Chicago Film Critics Association, thank you for your help throughout the year.